I think now is a good time to offer my philosophy to the dialectic. The reason I say that is because I was watching Six the Goddess, who I don't catch often, but I do try to catch. And there were people in the chat like, oh, you divester, you swirler, you this, our memories are so long, and we know what you did last summer. And I'm like, apparently your memory is short and you're actually incompetent because every divested woman that I roll with knows that I'm not one. Like you could go to channels, I don't even have to show up. Whatever swirling divested woman you know, you can just, oh, by the way, is Uppity insert group? And they'll tell you no. Um, I like nice women, you guys. I like nice women and I like women who I believe genuinely love Black women and genuinely want the best for Black women. There are Black women on YouTube who say all the right things, but because I think that they are shisty and because I think that they are grifters, I don't hang out over there. But when the message matches the spirit of the person, the actions of the person, the personality and character of the person, I tend to be supportive. So I go to places where I feel safe as a Black woman and not a backhanded safe, not a performative safe, but a genuine, I can feel that energy safe. But so there's all this talk, or there was that day in that chat about whether I am, a swirler or divested, and I feel the need to add my philosophy to the conversation. I feel that I am, I'm no leader of no movement, so I didn't feel the need to say these things. But when it comes to being divested, being sovereign, being a swirler, being pro Black love, it's just none of these are my focus. You have heard from my own mouth me say that I'm a recovering pro Black. That means for me, pro Blackness dies very hard. I still have habits. I still revert to, principles and ideals of pro Blackness, although I have been trying to get away from them in as much as somebody addicted to sugar or crack or whatever it is, right? It's in the veins. Um, but my philosophy is this. Black women have been betrayed and discriminated against by every group. While there are individuals who love Black women and who care about Black women, there is no group that Black women can pledge allegiance to. There is no Black man, there is no white man, there is no Asian man, there is no Arab man, there is no group of men who have said, hey, Black women, here is a safe place for you. Here is love and loyalty. Here is affection and a pedestal. That has not happened. White men have collectively discriminated against us. Black men have collectively discriminated against us. All men, because anti-Blackness is something that shows up throughout the world, wherever colonialism via these Europeans has shown up in the world, so has anti-Blackness. And that is the hardcore reality. However, what I believe is effective, right? We're at the 4-minute mark. So maybe I'll make a little timestamp for this so that you can get past the first part. What I believe is effective is for Black women, for self-loving Black women to gather themselves around themselves, raise the flag of Black womanhood. And then whatever man identifies with that flag can come and stand under the banner and under the shadow of that flag. And that is how we will learn and know our allies. It ain't gonna be all Arabs, but it might be that Jordanian that you're with. It ain't gonna be all Asians, but it might be that Chinese man that you're with. It ain't gonna be all Black men, but it might be my pro-Black ass Mr. Uppity who would take a bullet for any Black woman. That's the situation that Black women are in. We are unlike white women who have armies at their disposal. They can cry tears that don't come from their tear ducts. Call 911 and people will show up and execute you because you made them uncomfortable. That is loyalty. They have a whole institution of people who will give you more than a Will Smithing out here in these streets, at the streets, in your home. You will get blasted not only by their men extrajudicially, Carolyn Bryant, but even by the arms of government. Asian women, Arab women, oh my God. These people with their cultures intact, with their love and loyalty, their community for one another. African Americans pretty much lost that after Loving versus the state of Virginia. People are blaming slavery for this and that. I'm just like, you know what? Slavery was traumatic, but that's not what broke up the Black family. Even when they literally sold the Black family apart and broke up the Black family. Good morning. It's Fajr. As-salatu khayrun min an-nawm. Listen, Black people were still getting married all throughout the 1920s, 30, 40, 50, and into the early 60s. Something happened in the late 60s. And we have to associate this with what major events were happening at the time and what is the timeline. And the timeline is right after Loving versus the state of Virginia, when it became halal, legal for Black men to marry white women and for white men to marry Black women. I hope I said that right. If I didn't, you know what I meant. By the time interracial relationships became a thing no longer criminalized, yeah, it's Ramadan, and I have all kinds of alarms set off to ensure that I do not eat past the dawn, and that should be the last alarm that goes off for today until Maghrib. Anyhow, you find these married men deserting their homes. You find all over the Moynihan Report these married women with children whose husbands have just left. And I can, align that with Loving versus Virginia. I can align that with the Vietnam War. I can align that with Black men being unable to provide sufficiently for their families and how that, could have been a level of humiliation. I can, align that with urban living, Harlem Renaissance, and what came after people. Not that the Harlem Renaissance happened in the 1960s. This is 1920s. But what I'm trying to say is, with Black people going from a very suburban and very rural living styles, rural to urban, right? Now everybody's near you. Now, all these women who you never had access to, now you've got access and no self-control because you have never prepared yourself, for that kind of access to this amount of women in close proximity, right? That they ended up with in these projects and in these inner cities, as opposed to, wide open Kentucky and wide open spaces, Louisiana and whatever it is, right? Anyhow, my belief system, if you are inquiring, which I don't really believe these people were inquiring. I think they just wanted a witch hunt. Again, I empathize with divested women because I know what it's like to be at the opposite end of a witch hunt. But my philosophy is Black women gather themselves around other Black women. And I will edit that by saying good black women, because we have an element of problematic black women who love, 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 love to get in on black women empowerment, who love, love, love to get in, become content creators, become, I mean, these black female Dr. Umar Johnsons who are just, I mean, I hate to call him out like that, but who are, I used to believe so much in him, but what a, I'm trying not to be disrespectful. The time of fasting has entered upon me, and I don't want to say anything that is like wrong. So I'm going to reroute my language and just say there are women, there are black women who hate black women, who are not sincere about black women, who have propped themselves up as the voices of black women and don't even want to be known as black women. Who will learn a whole another language to try to convince you that they're not just black. But anyhow, black women, good black women need to gather themselves around good black women and raise the flag of black womanhood. And whatever men, whether that is Roadrunner, who is the investment network, whether that is men who clearly love black women, and you can tell because they are married to black women and are raising children with them. It was the funniest thing to me that, you know, Dr. Omar was talking about in that video how much he loves black women. But as far as we know, there are two black daughters, court documents, child support, unpaid, whatever it is. And he is juxtaposing himself with Ralph Richard Banks, who was the writer of Is Marriage for White People. And that guy, his black parents, his black wife, his black children are intact. I mean, that's a thick marriage. That is a layered marriage. Good God. I mean, I mean, the way he was talking about the man, I'm like, why don't you just Google him? Why don't you just buy the book? Why don't you? Listen, like I said, I don't want to get myself in too much trouble saying things I ought not to. I would like to be a bit more careful with my tongue. But when you're asking me about divesting, if I'm divested, if I'm a swirler, if I'm this and that, whatever, like, no. And I've said it a million times. You guys know that I just buried a black man. You know it. You know there's a big fat ring on my finger and a white man did not give it to me. Y'all know that. You know it. Love of my life. I am not saying, I'm not part of a cacophony of voices that say good black men don't exist. But as far as my black man was concerned, I'm not going to BS any black woman about the existence of the man that I was loved by. That was a unicorn. That was a unicorn with a unicorn. So we don't count. We don't count. In all respects, he was a unicorn, and in all respects, I'm a unicorn. We don't count. We are not what happens in general. We are not what happens with and among black people in general. We don't count. Me and my partner, we don't count, and as far as this conversation goes. But as far as the gender war goes and you know, what is the norm? Neither one of us were the norm. I could count on one hand how many times me and Mr. Uppity had an actual argument without using all of my fingers. Nothing about our relationship was the norm. Nothing about his income, nothing about his achievements, nothing about just nothing. And I don't gaslight black women about that. I don't sit there and be like, well, you can do it. I did it. Well, what's the difference in between us and Uppity? I just made a video about how I was stripped of the tools of Black womanhood. A lot of the brothers, I'm sorry, uh, they like the tools of Black womanhood when it comes to aiding and assisting the Black man, but as far as relationships are concerned, that stuff y'all really don't like. So I deal with Black women who make me cry all the time because they're so damn harsh. They're so damn harsh. They're so damn mean. They're so damn rude. They're so damn, curt. They're so damn short. And I'm just like, what is this? But I'm just like, these are the things that help you survive in an anti-Black, anti-female society. So I'm not mad at it. It's just that I can't with it. I'm fully soft, sensitive womanhood. And it's probably part of the reason I'm not as successful as far like I had to have my partner provide for me. It's part of the reason I'm not as successful in the real world because I don't have thick skin like that. I don't have the kind of thick skin that other Black women have that make them successful with their Black womanhood. So there are things that work very well for Black women out in the world that don't necessarily work well for them within their relationships with Black men. So I have those things. I have the exact opposite going on with me. So in that vein, and so many others, but in that vein, that makes me a unicorn. It would be one thing if I was biracial and I didn't have the tools of Black womanhood, but I have a Black mother. It's not normal. Even some of the whitest sounding Black girls that I can think of from the Pacific Northwest or all up and down the West Coast, in their personality is still the tools of Black womanhood. And if you don't know what I mean by that, I have a whole video about that you can look at and listen to if you're sincerely interested. If not, then carry on. This doesn't need to be anything longer than a 20-minute video, and I'm already at 17 minutes. So again, I don't have a philosophy of divestment or sovereignty, or I might be the closest to sovereignty. I don't know. But for the third time, I'm going to say this. Black women are not in a position to pledge allegiance to any group of men. I know there are Black men out there who love Black women because there are Black men out here in my life who love me. That's not the point. That's not the point because it's not enough. When only 29% of Black men are getting married and 80% of that 29% is marrying us, that's not enough. It's not enough. You love me? Congratulations, Black men. It's easy for Black men to love me. Most Black men I run into, they love me. That is not a common experience for Black women. And that's why I say I don't count. It's not hard. You should see the lynching, the cyber lynch campaigns. I mean, anytime I visit a male channel, there are women around him, it's a problem. It's a problem. Even if he don't like tall girls, he don't like brown skins, but it is still a problem. I've been molded by Black men, almost engineered by Black men, i.e. my mother's brothers, who and cousins, and I have a huge extended family, which is predominantly Black male, who were unkind to the tools of Black womanhood, although they depended on them. Although they depended on them, make no mistake, my mother is the queen matriarch of our family. She is without a doubt regarded as royalty, and she has all the tools of Black womanhood, every last one of them. Every last one of them. And that is how our family has become what it is. So yeah, men who are dependent on these tools of Black womanhood, you know, they want those tools in their lives. They just don't want them in their intimate romantic relationships. And that's a tough pill to swallow. They want those tools in their lives. They just don't want them in their intimate romantic relationships. Now, some do. Some do. I've definitely had, men come at me with, that 50-50 jive. And I'm just like, nope. I don't do that. I don't do that. Um, you know, to lean on you financially and for you to be long suffering, whatever, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, part of the reason you don't want to look at her anymore is because she's a mule. She's a workhorse. And that's why you're somewhere over here looking at dainty, dainty me or dainty somebody else and girly dressed up, whatever. Yeah, because you drove her too hard. And it's making people so uncomfortable that Black women are throwing off that mantle of mule and just like, I'm free to be girly. I'm within my right to be as fragile and vulnerable as any other woman. And I'm vulnerable to the max. So I no, I don't have any of it. Anyhow, 22 minutes in, I will repeat. My philosophy is that good Black women, not the throwaways, not the bad ones, the way that you define throwaway is not the way that I would. What I declare as a throwaway, right? And what I declare as, predatory behavior and hypocrisy and things like that, isolate them. But for good Black women to gather themselves around themselves, raise the flag of Black womanhood, and whoever sees it, if they like it, they will come. I don't think we should be soliciting anybody who doesn't like Black women. I don't think that we should be trying to change anybody's mind. I was just on TikTok the other day, and this girl, I had to unfollow her because she was just like, oh, if you're a heterosexual cis het Black woman, and if you don't like Black queer men and Black, pansexual men and Black bisexual men, you're just rooted in misogyny and bigotry and whatever else. And I'm just like, okay, well, what if I tell you I have an Islamic background and I find it genuinely disgusting, that whole backdoor situation? Even if I didn't have an Islamic background, before I had an Islamic background, when I was still a devout Christian, I had issues with that. It's not that I'm not willing to learn or expand, but I'm just like, I can't do anything about the fact that that turns me off. But trying to pressure, like there's this LGBTQ community pressure on Black women to start sleeping. I'm just like, how come nobody's doing this to white women? How come there's not a campaign to do that to white women? But at the same time, Black women for so long have tried to pressure Black men out of their colorism. I'm just like, don't do that. Let them stay colorist. A woman said their rejection is my protection, and you're absolutely right, because if you do get into the arms of a man who is a colorist and you're dark skin, you're going to be abused. You're going to be mistreated. He's not going to treat you like you're valuable because you don't have what he values. Let him go get his light skin. Let him go get his mixed chick. Let him go get his white, like whatever it is, let him go. And that's what I preach. That's what I teach. Let him go. Do not try to hold a man hostage by his preferences when they don't effing include you. I feel the same way. I don't want a pansexual Black man or queer trying to yeah, we could be friends, like whatever, but I don't want you to try to bind me to something and drag me into a bedroom, or I'm bigoted and I'm wrong and I ought to be ashamed of myself and whoop, whoop, whoop. No, go your way. Go. Because really, I'm probably not going to treat you right anyhow, because again, you don't have what I value. Mr. Uppity was a super heterosexual. I mean, just whoa. Like, I'm glad he wasn't a YouTuber, because some of the stuff he was willing to say out loud, I'm like, baby, that is giving hate crime. That is giving homophobia. And I ain't scared, and I ain't never been scared of a gay person. And it's crazy because he wasn't very welcoming, very gentle, but like as far as like, listen, I'm gonna try not to make this about him. You all know that he just passed some months ago, and I'm still mourning, so I have a hard time not thinking about him all the time and bringing him into all my conversations. Hence why I no longer go live, because I've learned to expect that kind of thing from myself while mourning. But what I will say is that that is a Black man whose love for Black women I could never question. And he had some peers like him whose love for Black women I could never question. That's who I want to be around. I'm so happy he was Black, but if he wasn't Black, he still would have got the girl. Roadrunner Brent from the investment network, he calls an investment because a Black women are doing divestment, right? Loves Black women in a way that I would never question. I would never put him to trial for racism or bigotry, or I just wouldn't do it. Some things are just so obvious. That's what Black women have to do at this point. We're not in a position to pledge allegiance to any group of men. I have said on other videos that I find in, and when I say the white woman, I'm obviously not talking about every white woman, okay? But let's say the blue-haired feminist, I have found within her a level of ingratitude. And this isn't from the outside looking in, because I'm just like, you have with you by your side a man who has smacked up the world on your behalf and laid it to you at your feet, and you're just saying more, more, more. Where was your gratitude? Where was your humility? And part of this is why, I mean, those mothers of the Ku Klux Klan people, like, I obviously they're terrible anti-blackness, but when I remove them from that context, I'm like, these are a group of women who were so grateful to their martyred men for their sacrifices in the Civil War, that to this day in the South, because of those women, the South still feels like they should have won the war and kept their slaves, because those women made sure to institutionalize thanks and praise of their men for what they were trying to achieve. And because they paid for it with their life. With their lives. That's incredibly noble. So when I look at the blue-haired feminists, blah, 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 and all these, anti-white male, white women, I'm just like, dude, what is going on with you? You can't get me to turn my back on a man who went to war for me. You can't get me to turn my back on a man who did for me what I couldn't do for myself. Flaws and all, like, no, like, maybe we could work out the kinks, but like, I could never go feminist on a man who has done all of that for me. It would always be love and loyalty. I couldn't do it. He's got the white man has got too many bodies on the end of his sword, slain in the name of white women in their comfort and their preservation. There must be gratitude for that. And if you don't have that gratitude, scoot over because it's a bunch of black women who can express it. Lord knows black women are grateful for the smallest little thing. So anyhow, like I said, this is my philosophy. I don't have a name for it. I don't know where it fits. But what I think and what I feel is that that is the best solution for black women. To gather themselves around themselves and raise the flag of black womanhood, and whatever men like it can come. But you throw yourself at a group of white men, I just said their swords are bloody. And our ancestors are part of the bodies that they caught. People, well, why can't you just go to Africa? Yeah, their swords are bloody with us too. It's how we got here. Anti-blackness is global. You don't know who to trust and who to run to, so you don't run to anybody. That's the solution. You don't go to anybody. You create the best version of yourself and lean on your sisters, and the men who see that, like that, come. And that's how you build that. You build a community around black women. We've tried building our communities around black men, and clearly they marry out at almost 3 times the rate that we do. Clearly they have these preferences for racially ambiguous, whatever else. We see this in them. So we're just like, okay, we'll bet. Okay, you like Janae Aiko, you like Beyonce, you like, okay, the majority of us don't look like that. You like Mariah Carey, you like Halle Berry with her, white mother. Okay. Most of us have black moms. Most of us don't look like that. So you like mulatto and Doja Cat. Hell, I like Doja Cat. No harm, no foul. But bro, if that's where your love and your loyalty is, then go. Respect, but go. And just like you call those women by name, and you have conversations about those women by name, and the men who love these black women, that they will call them by name. And if he has the kind of masculinity that she seeks, he will seek her out. Treasure hunt her, treasure him, hunt her. Become your best self, present your best self. I think it's a great thing to have, to be presenting yourself all over social media, all over Instagram, all over TikTok, all over whatever. Just put images of you out there. And the best man for the job he's gonna find you. It might be TikTok, it might be LinkedIn, it might be. Might be your own hood, it might be where you work, it might be where you live, it might be your neighborhood. You become your best self, present your best self in unity and in community with other black women, and let the men who love us come. These men are distinguished by their character, not so much by their color. These men are distinguished by the quality of their character, not so much their ethnic background. There are men, black, white, and everything else in between. They adore black women, prefer black women. It's it's a thing, and it's beautiful. But they all belong to groups of people who experience anti-blackness within their culture, including African Americans themselves. So if you want to know what I think and what my philosophy is with this whole gender war, how do we fix it, how do we whatever, that's what it is. I don't think Black women should put themselves in any position of begging. If we want to talk about how colorism works, that's fine, but we shouldn't be running colorism recovery camps for men who prefer, you know, women who look like LaToya Jackson. Like let him go get his LaToya. Let him go get his LaToya. I'll be somewhere over here looking like Janet and Reedy. Fine. There is a market for Janet and Reedy. I just don't think it serves Black women to throw themselves at, i.e., pledge their allegiance to any group of men. Because by and large, we haven't been collectively protected by any group of men. Maybe Coretta was protected by Martin. Maybe Malcolm was protecting Betty. But as a collective of Black women, we have not been protected by any group of men. And there are men who just, in general, protect Black women. Like Deacons of Defense is a YouTube example of a Black man just randomly protecting Black women on YouTube, right? Just, doesn't want to see them get kicked on, things like this, that there's that. But we're not going to pretend like he represents a norm. We're not going to pretend like what he does on YouTube represents a norm. So if you raise the banner and, men like that showed up, then fine. But you gather yourself around yourself where it's safe, where you are understood, and where you have unity and community, and where you are loved. That is the best way to do this. I'm not going to be over here like Tariq Nasheed when Tariq Nasheed said, I raised the European flag in the bedroom. I'm not raising any man's flag. I'm raising mine. And if he likes it, he can wave it. Don't get it twisted, because I'm not trying to say I'm some kind of a dominatrix or whatever it is, but I'm just like, women need to know that they are loved and cherished. And if a man doesn't want to do that with you, and it's an intimate romantic relationship, I don't think you should waste your time. Because a lot of the people having this discussion are of marriageable age. It's not little kids having this discussion. It's not a whole bunch of grandparents having this discussion, albeit Kevin Samuels is there. Which, I mean, ironically, I'm thinking he's probably going to die alone. And I don't want to get too far into that conversation because, again, the sun has already risen on this Ramadan morning. But I do wonder if the karma for the verbal abuse he has espoused will result in him living out the fate he tried to wrap around others, the fate he tried to curse others with, because when you have a large following like that, your words do carry consequences. It's not the same as having a 2, 3, 10,000, subscriber channel when you've got a million subs and millions of views and people are genuinely affected by you. So again, all this die alone, die alone, die alone. I really believe that if there is not some kind of public and private repentance, that that could be his fate. And that will be the seal on his message, telling a bunch of black women that they're going to die alone, only to, wake up dead and alone in the hereafter. So anyhow, y'all, please don't ask me again. Please refer to this video. I know the video was long. You can create timestamps. I'll try to make some timestamps, but please stop asking me what I am. I do not identify. I empathize. I relate to different groups of people, but I just hang out with good black women. If you're good, if you're kind, if you're a stand-up girl, like I want to support you. If I see you loving on black women, like you can say Loren from hashtag Black Women and Six the Goddess are very different. I will agree with you. I will agree with you. But I am convinced that Six and Loren love black women equally. I'm convinced that Six loves black women. I'm convinced that Six loves black people. I'm convinced that Loren is love. That's just her vibration. That it's just what she radiates. I stay away from jealous, hating, envious black women, all women, but I'm just talking about black women because these are my people. I stay away from those women. I stay away from pick-me's. I stay away from people who have these soured, blackened, hard hearts. I don't know how many times somebody has come to my channel with a so-and-so talking point. I'm like, show me the last time you saw me in so-and-so's chat. You can't find me there a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. You can't find me over there. Stop. Don't superimpose onto me what you see all around this sector. You gotta ask. And since so many have asked, here's the answer. Don't call me anything. I think it's such a crime for crime against the divested community when people call other people divested who aren't, and even those who claim it but also aren't. I think it's a crime against the sovereign community when people claim to be that and are not. I just don't like that. I don't like that, period. I don't want to see you claiming to be a blood crypt disciple if you ain't one. I don't want to see you claiming to be a Black Greek Divine Nine national pan-Hellenic organization when you're not one. Like, no. Don't claim what you're not. And don't try to don't force other people, don't throw them into groups that they don't belong into. If you're just ignorant and small-brained, pea-brained, and you can't understand nuance and layers, then say that. Then say that. But nah, man. In my humble opinion, and my opinion is humble, I'm not a social scientist the way that Mr. Uppity was. I'm just, in my own little practical mind, that's what I think is best. For the good women to surround themselves around themselves, become a community, and let the good men come. Because good men are for good women, bad men are for bad women, righteous men are for righteous women. Just separate on some Red Sea stuff. Moses' staff part like the Red Sea. Erect yourself on the foundation of your own goodness and blackness, and let whoever genuinely loves that love you. And obviously, it's not just about love, right? Because we've seen relationships fail that way. But I mean, that fits your qualifying factors with that among as a detail among them, right? So he's financially qualified, his character is qualified, his education, his background, his upbringing, um, in addition to not being an anti-black racist. A lot of people have anti-black racism in their heart, including black people. Including black people. Black people are not immune from the sickness of anti-black racism. They're not. I don't want to be around that. All skin folk ain't kinfolk. I do not want to be around that. So yeah, again, good black women establishing themselves in circles with one another, raising a flag. Here we are. And hey, if you like what you see, and if you're qualified, you can be a part of this community. And if that ends up being, mostly black men, that's fine. If that ends up being mostly white men, that's fine. It's just hitting a cultural reset button on what black women live through. That is my cultural reset button for the problem that we're facing as black women and the relationships we continue to get into, where we find out that we're not loved and we find out that we're not valued. And it's to the point, I mean, Dr. Umar was talking to 71,000 people. I mean, the video has so many views, and I'm just like, people are convinced that this man loves black women. That is very interesting. That is very interesting. He loves black women, is dang near 50, hasn't married one, doesn't have a family with him, with one, does have a bunch of black children, child support questions. But somehow Ralph Richard Banks doesn't, and he's got a black wife, black kids, black marriage institution, has for some time. Like I don't want to play those games. I I think Ralph is ideal. Uh I think, I mean, I could really go on and on, but I won't. I'll just stop at Ralph. But I think, I mean, Ralph is pretty much a 10 out of 10. Pretty much a 10 out of 10. Easily a Mr. Uppity peer. Easily. There's a black girl on TikTok who married, got a couple of kids, self-diagnosed as autistic, and she's got an amazing black husband who, I guess I don't know if he's a doctor or what, but she's like, yeah, he goes 24 hours in the hospital, blah, blah, blah. So I don't have to worry about how much anything costs. And I'm like, that's a black king right there. It's a TikTok sound. It's a TikTok sound. That's a black king right there. They're out there, but I'm not here to tell everybody to strive for one. White men who love black women are out there, but I'm not out here trying to tell everybody to strive for one. Love yourself. Strive for yourself. Complete yourself. Work within and for yourself. And then let these people come. You will be so much more happy. There is so much more to do and feel with love when you love yourself. It is so much more fulfilling. It's so much bigger. It's so much deeper when you have solved you. When you have finished your own puzzle and you have solved your own riddle. Good God, the intensification of love is I mean, literally conquers all. Magic. I wouldn't tell you unless I knew from firsthand experience.